Yeah, we back, and I just had to come with this video, man, because I've been covering a lot of political topics, and especially as it relates to the military takeovers going on in West Africa. And to be honest, I was sitting back thinking, if we didn't have incompetent and corrupt leaders, then there wouldn't be any military takeovers. There wouldn't be any frustration amongst the population, right? And then I had to sit back and ask myself, well, why do we have so many corrupt politicians? I mean, I know corrupt politicians are everywhere across the world. Corruption in politics is synonymous. But why in black countries is that almost an expectation, right? Where you just automatically assume that the politician or the leader is automatically corrupt, to where we just, and to be honest, in black countries, you kind of just accept it, like, well, you know, the guy in office is going to be corrupt. The guy running for office is going to be corrupt. The guy, you know, his vice president is going to be corrupt. His whole administration is going to be corrupt. And as black people, we just kind of accept this, right? We just accept the fact that our leaders are going to work against us and sabotage us and destroy us. And we just accept it as the way it is. You know, we just accept the fact that our leaders are going to do the bidding of the foreign governments. They're going to do the bidding of the United States, France, Britain, whatever foreign government they're attached to. And we just accept it as a fact of life. And then I had to ask myself, why is that? One thing we got to understand, the so-called leaders, they come out of the population, right? They don't pop out of the sky. They're not aliens. They come directly from the population. They are the sons and daughters of the soil. And then I had to ask myself, what exactly is corruption? When we think of the corrupt politician, what do we think about? We typically think of certain behaviors such as a lack of accountability, a lack of transparency, the misuse of public funds, accepting bribes and kickbacks, conflicts of interest, etc., etc. And especially in the context of black countries, you think of somebody who has been placed in power or backed by a foreign government and is doing the bidding of the foreign governments at the expense of the population that he came from. And the reason for that is, in my opinion, as black people, regardless of where you are from, our vision of success is typically an individualistic type of vision. We don't really have a collective type of vision to where we want to see our entire collective rise to a position of power and prosperity. When we think of success, we think of ourselves and our families typically reaching a place of prosperity. And whether the collective reaches prosperity or not, on the average, we don't really give a goddamn. You know, that's the truth. That's the average person, right? That's the average person. And then you combine that with the fact that there's a large amount of self-hatred amongst our communities and a desire for integration, to where we think that the key to success is by integrating with different communities, right? We got to integrate with the white community. We got to get into the white university. We got to get into the Ivy Leagues. We got to work for the white corporation. We got to move to the white neighborhood. We got to wear the white European name brands. We got to drive the European made vehicle. So when you have this mentality to where in your mind, clicking up with outsiders is the way to success, is the key to success. That's the path to success. And on top of that, your vision of success is based on individual pursuits and not collective benefit, the collective uplift, the entire collective reaching a place of power and prosperity. A mindset to where if I got mine, then it is what it is. If you don't got yours, I mean, tough luck. That's the mentality that we have on the average. So now, going back to the corrupt politician, when he's a young boy or they're a young girl and they're coming up into society, and then you combine that with the fact that many of these nations are already impoverished, so there's not many opportunities for economic mobility, for upward mobility, right? There's not many industries, there's not many jobs, there's not many pathways to success. And when you look around and you see the people with the most money is the politicians, right? The politician got the biggest house, the politician riding first class, the politician riding on a jet, he got a Benz, he got a Maybach. He got a house in France. He got a house in Paris. He got a house in London. He got a house in Boston, right? The corrupt politician is the symbol of success because they got the most money. So now when you combine that with the fact that as black people, typically our parents don't push us into politics because we've now come to associate politics with corruption, lack of integrity, thievery, corruption, crooks, sellouts. So you don't raise your kids to grow up and be a politician. So we're not even raising solid politicians because we've associated the game of politics as a dirty game, right? Politics is for dirty, corrupt men, you know, criminal-minded men. So the kids with integrity, the young men with integrity, they avoid politics. They go into a different profession. They don't even deal with politics. They don't even care about politics because because the connotation of politics is so negative in their mind. They think politics is for corrupt men who have no integrity, men who have no love for nobody but themselves. So nobody wants to put that stain on their name because even if you have integrity, as a politician, they're going to associate you with the criminality and the corruption just because you are a politician, especially a black politician in a black country. So not only is politics seen as an easy way out to get out of poverty, but the individuals who could positively make an impact, they don't even attempt to throw their hat in the ring because they don't want to be associated with the corruption that the game of politics brings. And the other side of the game is this. Corrupt politicians are encouraged. Their behavior is encouraged because it serves the interests of foreign governments, right? So, besides the fact that our parents don't encourage us to go into politics, let's say you do jump into politics and you do have integrity and you do want to help your people rise to a position of prosperity. Well, there are going to be foreign governments that are not going to be happy about that. And they're going to put roadblocks in your way. And they're going to do everything they can to stop you from achieving your goals and achieving your objectives, because that doesn't serve their economic or political interests. So many times as black people, especially when we do get lucky and we get a politician that's halfway decent, unfortunately, due to the fact that the politician may not be tap dancing to the same music as the rest of his corrupt politicians, there's going to be external forces that are not going to be happy about that. And they might take direct action against that, regardless of democracy. Democracy be damned. And today I'm going to use a case study because I've been talking about the politics of West Africa lately. So we're going to take a trip back to 2004 when the United States government and the French government in collaboration overthrew a democratically elected president because he wasn't serving their economic interests at the time, or he was threatening their economic interests at the time, I should say. Take a look up on the screen.
De faire cette espèce de remue-ménage avec la France, l'Union européenne, la francophonie internationale, les États-Unis, l'Organisation des États américains, faire une espèce de tableau, là, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire?
L'ancien secrétaire d'État du Canada pour l'Amérique latine et les Caraïbes, Denis Paradis, avait reçu le mandat du premier ministre chrétien d'organiser cette rencontre spéciale de 2 jours baptisée Initiative d'Ottawa sur Haïti.
Est-ce qu'il y avait des représentants haïtiens?
Non, il n'y a pas de représentants haïtiens. Il y avait c'est strictement quelques pays qui disaient, mais qu'est-ce qu'on fait, nous, pour les aider? Mais il n'y avait pas de représentants haïtiens.
Et pour cause, la suspension de la souveraineté du pays était sur la table.
L'enjeu, c'était sérieux. On parlait de ni plus ni moins que mettre Haïti en tutelle.
Non, on évite ces mots-là en politique, là. Bien sûr, c'est pas de mettre Haïti en tutelle. C'était davantage de dire, est-ce que la souveraineté des États est un principe immuable?
De toute évidence, la réponse est non, du moins en ce qui concerne Haïti. 1 an après ce remue-ménage au Canada, en février 2004, des forces spéciales américaines débarquent à Port-au-Prince, pendant que des soldats canadiens sécurisent l'aéroport.
Now, in this video, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the 2004 Haitian coup d'etat. I've spoken about it at length in the past. Long story short, man, the president of Haiti at the time, President Aristide, he had made the bold declaration that he wanted the French government to pay reparations, to pay the money that was paid in reparations to the French government from Haiti. He wanted that money back, right? He wanted that money back, and he decided to make the bold demand of the French government to pay reparations back to the Haitian government. And in response to that, they sent the shooters, bro. They sent the shooters. Long story short, they said, fuck out of here. We're not paying you a dime back. And just for that, we're going to kidnap you and we're going to send you to Africa. We're going to exile you out your own country, because that's what it is. That's politics for you right there. That's politics right there. And they kind of had somewhat of a modern day Berlin conference, as you saw the gentleman mention, where a bunch of white men got in the room and discussed the future of a black nation. And they didn't have any black men in the room, right? They didn't have any black men in the room. Remember what I told you about that ECOWAS meeting last week? And I spoke about how I didn't understand how a meeting, a conference of West African leaders, why was there so many white men in the room? Why was there so many Western diplomats inside the room if it was a conference of black men discussing their political situation, right? Meanwhile, you have situations where white men get in the room and they discuss the politics of black nations, and there are no black men in the room, and they've been doing this since 1885, maybe even before that, right? Since the Berlin Conference, maybe even before that. So in summary, the reason why we have a phenomenon of corrupt politicians is a combination of many factors, right? We raise our children in a way to value individual success above the collective, right? If I got mine, it is what it is. You better get yours. So when someone is raised seeing people act upon that mindset, when he gets into a position of power, he's going to act upon that mindset. He's going to activate that mindset. Why would he not sell out to the Europeans when he sees his own people in his society? The first thing they want to do is get close to the European. Go get close to the European society, go to the European university, move to the European neighborhood, wear the European clothes, live in the European country. We have to be honest. There's a very low level of patriotism in black countries, right? Compared to the United States, where as soon as you're 6 years old, they got you standing up every single morning, singing the Star Spangled Banner with your hand over your chest. They got you learning about George Washington and Thomas Jefferson as soon as you're able to read. But in modern black society, by and large, we don't value our history. We don't value our ancestry. We don't value our individuality. Many of us see the ways and the behaviors and the lifestyle and the culture of our ancestors as primitive and backwards. And we believe that social integration is the pathway to success. So when a child is being raised in this environment, right, especially a poverty-stricken environment where there is not much opportunity for upward mobility, except get into politics and steal all the goddamn money. And combine that with the fact that individuals who have integrity are typically going to avoid politics, and combine that with the fact that if you do have integrity, there's going to be foreign governments that are going to sabotage you and attempt to assassinate you or kidnap you and abduct you and send you into exile simply for the fact that they want to maintain and protect their economic and political interests at the expense of your population. And going back to the video that I played earlier, I got the screenshot up on the screen and you can see the caption. It says this: "Is the country's sovereignty an immutable principle?" Now, what did that gentleman mean by that? What does he mean by "is a country's sovereignty an immutable principle," right? We got to break it down. Number one, what is a country's sovereignty? Sovereignty refers to the supreme authority or power that a country has over its own territory and government. It means that a country has the right to govern itself without the interference from external powers. And immutable principle, that means that is something that cannot be changed, regardless of the circumstance. So the question is essentially asking whether the concept of a country's sovereignty is something that should never be changed, or whether it can be subject to a modification. So for me to break down all that political, bullshit in layman's terms, it's basically saying this. Imagine you have your own room, and you get to decide what happens inside your room. Nobody from outside your family can come in and tell you what to do inside your room. This is a country's sovereignty. So the statement is basically asking if the rule that says "my room, my rules" should always be the way it is, right? Or if it might be okay for people outside your family to have a say so in what happens inside your room, even though they're not even part of your family, right? They don't even live in your neighborhood. They're coming from way far away somewhere. They're hopping on a train, hopping on a plane to come inside your room and tell you what to do, right? But in the real world, countries have rules about running their own affairs, just like you have rules about running what's happening inside your room. But some people, right, typically powerful nations, they think that they should have a say in what happens inside the room of other people. And that also encourages a culture of corrupt politicians, because the only person that will allow a foreign power or someone outside the family to have a say so in what happens inside our house is a corrupt individual. And if by the off chance that you get lucky and you get a politician that is actually going to be halfway decent, then you have to deal with the external forces at play. They're going to try to sabotage and put roadblocks in your way. And that's typically why most people avoid politics altogether. And in the beginning of the video, I put up the former Haitian president, Michel Martelly, and he was with Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and things like that. And I put him up because he is the typical, the poster boy for the modern day corrupt black politician, in my opinion. He hits all the marks, right? He has a criminal record. He was a street guy. He was a goddamn rapper, essentially. He was a singer, but basically he was basically a rapper, a musician. And for some reason, the Western powers love this guy. They love this dude. His whole entourage is full of drug dealers, killers, and dudes heavy in the streets, moving kilos of cocaine. And the Western governments love this guy, man. They loved him. They loved him, man. They loved him. You would think he was the next coming of Martin Luther King the way they love this guy, man. They loved him. There wasn't a single Western diplomat that did not love this guy. And his sons, they living up in Miami, living like kings, man. They living like kings with all the looted money that they pilfered from the state coffers. And will the State Department ever confiscate that money? Hell no, because it's getting circulated back in the American economy. Because the corrupt politician, not only does he sell out his people to the foreign governments, he steals the state money and then recycles it back into the American or the European economy. And sometimes these guys even have dual citizenship, to where they also pay taxes to foreign governments. So they getting hit double time. So of course they're never going to prosecute these men, because it's like a racket, bro. They're racking up a whole bunch of money off these dudes, man. Where you think they take all the money they steal from the country? They run to the white man's country. And then they inject the money into his economy. And also that serves as leverage for the Western governments, because let's say, for example, a politician does not want to play ball. Well, guess what? We can revoke your visa. We can confiscate your property. We can confiscate the money that you stole. We can seize your bank accounts. We can freeze your accounts. They have a lot of leverage over these guys. They send their kids to schools in foreign countries. Well, guess what? We can take your kid out of school. Or your kid going to Harvard, your kid going to NYU. Well, guess what? We're going to send your kid, we're going to deport your child. We're going to take him out of school. So how do you think these Western governments, they have these corrupt politicians on a short leash? And then you combine that with the fact that typically the economic elites in the country, they are typically tied in with the Western governments also, depending on which industry they're involved in. And when you get into politics, you have to do this balancing act. You have to do the bidding of also the economic elites inside the country and also the foreign governments that are putting pressure on you from outside the country. So in order to be a black politician in the modern context especially, you have to deal with a lot of things coming at you from all sides. And unfortunately, it's typically individuals with the lowest amount of integrity that are attracted and compatible with the game of politics. Because in order to be a politician that is not corrupt, you have to be as gangster as everybody around you. You have to be as gangster as everybody coming at you. You have to be as gangster as the foreign governments trying to come at you. You have to be as gangster as the economic elites that will kill you if you try to sabotage their economic interests. You have to be a savage. If you are going to be a black politician, you have to be a savage. A savage, meaning you have to stomp on heads, you have to crush necks, you have to become a monster in order to be a successful black politician, because it's just so many interests at play. And unfortunately for many people, it's just so much easier to just sell out. It's easier to sell out because the corrupt politician, he ends up living to old age. You notice all the revolutionaries, all the legendary black men, they die at a very young age. They die like 35 years old, 42 years old, 47 years old. The corrupt politician, he's dying at like 92 years old, 85 years old, 98 years old, with a whole bunch of money, with a whole bunch of property, living an amazing, peaceful, prosperous life with no stress at all, not worried about anybody coming to kill him, not worried about anybody coming to harass him or harm his family. He's living an amazing life with millions and millions of stolen money from the state coffers with no care in the world. He's never going to go to jail. He's never going to be prosecuted because he got the backing of the Western governments. They got his back. So many people will choose to just sell out, man. And that's what we are dealing with, right? So unfortunately, going back to, the politics of West Africa, that's why you see all of these coups happening in West Africa, bro, especially the Francophone countries where corruption is running rampant. And in order to get to the root of the problem, you have to go back to the type of children that we are raising, the type of culture in the society that we are producing, right? We have to stop glorifying individual success. We have to stop glorifying social integration with foreign communities as a pathway to success. We have to increase the level of patriotism inside our countries. Because if a child was raised with a high level of patriotism, when he grows up and he becomes an adult and he steps into politics, he's going to feel a sense of condemnation for going against his people, for selling out his people. He's going to feel a sense of condemnation. But unfortunately, many of our politicians, they don't feel any sense of condemnation because that sense of patriotism is not even there. It was not developed as a child. They don't feel any sense of betrayal against the people. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, the only people that end up suffering the most is the common citizen, the average man and woman on the street trying to survive. That's who suffers the most because that's who they sell out. Those are the people that we forget about. It is what it is, man. That's the predicament that we find ourselves in, especially in black nations, right? We encourage a culture of corrupt politicians, right? And whenever we do get any politicians that are halfway decent, they are sabotaged and they get roadblocks put into their way, or they get assassinated, or they get kidnapped and sent into exile, or a coup d'etat happens, or something crazy happens, a disaster happens. So, it's crazy, man. It's a crazy predicament that we find ourselves in, man. And I was just sitting back thinking about it because I've been making all these videos about the military takeover in Niger, the coup d'etat in Niger. And, unfortunately, man, we have to get down to the root of the problem. Yes, the Western governments are going to sabotage us, but we have to understand there's a culture of corrupt politicians that we are producing, right? Like I said, the same people that are in politics, they come from the population. They come from the society. They're not coming from the sky. They're not aliens coming down to earth. But anyways, man, I could go on and on and on and on, man. I didn't want the video to be too long. Anyways, it's your boy Neferkari. That's Elaine back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App up on the screen. And I'm gone. Peace.
Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. I left on a horse and came back in that ass, and I left with abundance and came back to famine. We used to be pyramids, now we be rapping. Look how the mighty have fallen. Used to be running, now we be walking. When you be cooning, that's when they applauded. Selling your soul, your sons and your daughter. Gotta come up in this shit, they stuck in the mix. Really, my heart it be breaking. That's why I'm stacking that paper and handle my business. Pass it down in generation. Talking about money and power and building a nation. That's a deadly combination. Never be watching the TV, they pushing agendas, falsifying information. Know they got malice intentions. Step in the room and I'm feeling the tension. Enemy watching, he blocking my vision. Paying for the check cause I need my redemption. Building my kingdom, I need it protected. Ready for war like a young Money Congo. Never decided the team is the motto. Up in the crib and I'm whipping up waffles. Up in the crib and I'm smoking gelato. I'm chilling, I'm taking my pain and make it ambition. I'm blessed by the gods, but I ain't religious. I came for the power, they came for the bitch. They making no hourly wage. I got business, this shit is a of art, and they could never be taught. Selling my soul, I can never be bought. Play with my money, I see you in court. Run to the check and I do it for sport. Babylon falling, I go to the source. Packing my luggage and go overseas. Shorty be with me and she so at least. Shorty be chocolate, I'm calling her Hershey. Secret intelligence probably gon' murk me. Don't fuck with brands, cause nigga I'm Haitian. Say the wrong shit and you're smacking their faces.